today. Now, I was 50 years ago and 6 weeks ago in the Pentagon on August 4th, 1964. August 1964, 50 years ago. Spent all night in the Pentagon watching the first raids against North Vietnam, which were the precursors to 7 years of bombing and almost 4 times the tonnage of World War II dropped on Indochina. Over 8 million tons of bombs compared to 2 million in World War II. I was there that night to watch those raids, and I watched my president saying, and my boss, the Secretary of Defense, I was a special assistant to the Assistant Secretary, my first day in the Pentagon, coincidence. I watched them saying to the public, we have unequivocal evidence. They were referring, by the way, in particular to an NSA intercept, which had been misinterpreted, misunderstood, understood by NSA within a day or two to have referred to an earlier attack, not to the attack they alleged had just happened. And NSA did not correct that mistake in its own files for 40 years. I have here with me a study by Robert Hanyak from NSA showing that it was clearly possible to find out that not only had there been mistranslations and misfiling and misunderstandings of this, which was given to the president, but that they had persisted in concealing that error by other lies and concealment for 40 years. And Hanyak, when he revealed this in his study, which I can give you references to if you want, in 2001 for NSA, first at a level higher than top secret, tried to get it declassified in 2001 and 2002. At first, they said, fine, 40 years old, time to tell the truth on this. We can put your study out. And then in 2002, they realized in NSA, it looks too much like what's happening this year in Iraq with the WMDs, so they wouldn't declassify it until someone leaked about it to Matthew Aid in 2005. I just spoke yesterday to Scott Shane, who then wrote a New York Times story in October of 2005 saying there is this study here which says that we were lied into war and that NSA was complicit. NSA was culpable throughout that period, probably of deceiving the president at first, but then deceiving everybody after that when the truth became known in NSA. Says all this. Scott Shane wrote the story, and they declassified the study with a few redactions a month later and said, by the way, oh, it has no relation to Scott Shane's leak or story. We were about to do this anyway after 4 years, the next month, working night and day. Okay, I was misled that first night. I thought there probably had been an attack. But when they said unequivocal evidence, and I won't take time now to go into this whole story, I knew that was a flat lie. Nothing could be more equivocal. It wasn't certain there had been no attack that night, but it was certain that it was uncertain. Commodore Herrick on the spot had said, recommend no action be taken till further reconnaissance, which was done the next morning and revealed nothing. He said, take no action, everything is too uncertain, whether there's an attack or not. But the president wanted to show Goldwater that he could be tough. He didn't want to face the charge in an ongoing presidential campaign that he would let us be attacked, like letting 2 people be beheaded or something like that, and do nothing. So this was a good excuse, and if there was some evidence that we had a reason to go, that was good enough. Second, he said, unprovoked, total lie, which I knew already the first night, or certainly by the next day. Unprovoked, we were conducting covert, illegal, aggressive operations against North Vietnam before all of these operations by the destroyers, and that had led to the actual attack 2 days earlier. 3, in international waters, very misleading again. 4, we seek no wider war. And that was the election campaign where facing Goldwater, reserve Air Force Major General, who represented the views of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for a larger war than ever occurred, larger than ever occurred, risking war with China, clearly, and indeed possibly using nuclear weapons in Vietnam, something that cost them quite a bit with the voters. And in opposing that, Johnson was saying, we're not going to send American troops, American boys, he put it, then it was all boys. We're not going to send American boys to do what Asian boys should be doing. We're not going north, we're not sending troops. No ground troops is what he was heard to say. And essentially what he did say, or what we just heard from the president yesterday, I guess, or the day before yesterday. So no ground troops, a good commitment. Actually, what we were talking about then in the Pentagon was a wider war, full blast. Not as big as Goldwater's, but a big widening of the war, a big air war. That's what I was dealing with. On election day, I was in the State Department in an interagency group representing the Defense Department on widening the war with airstrikes. Why election day? Didn't want it to be the day before. It might have leaked and affected the election. Didn't want it to be the day after because there was no time, because the government of Vietnam, we were supposed to have had 9 heads in that 12-month period, was so weak and so ready to collapse, we just couldn't wait to back it up with air power. But that was going to be air power. Actually, McNamara and Maxwell Taylor still opposed ground troops, but the Army didn't. And the Army was making its plans for ground troops. And as soon as the air power, just air power, is going over, that's something, as McNamara used to say, you can always stop. And easier than troops, like drones, like airstrikes in Syria, like airstrikes in Iraq, just air power. They used to say in the Pentagon, pilots don't have mothers, which means what? It means they're volunteers, they're older, they have their own families, there are few of them, and if they get killed, as they did, or prisoners, you don't get a movement. Send 19-year-olds over there on the ground, that's the boots on the ground phrase. They have mothers. Drones, of course, don't even have fathers or mothers. So you can lose those, no troops at risk.